Perfect.
All right, yeah. Good morning, everyone. And I'm here to introduce Border Hall. So here's our team with my dad being the CEO. I help out wherever I can, our software engineer, advisor, and then our marketing team, who's actually grown up in the area and is really familiar with the industry and the overall circumstances. So just to introduce the process, obviously the US is a very big nation on like imports and exports, so there's a lot that goes between US and Mexico. But the process isn't actually as simple as just like, for example, if you want to go from Austin to like Monterey, you can't just directly send it. In a lot of cases, they'll send to this town, which is considered a port, such as Loretto, which is right on the border. And they have to drop off their products, and specified businesses called carriers are then going to ship it to the next country, to the actual final destination. And in just this port alone, there's around 15,000 to 20,000 carriers who travel through it every day, just to show the overall scale. So I'm not sure that everyone can necessarily relate to the fact that, to shipping between US and Mexico. But just for a show of hands, can everyone just show me if you can relate to, for example, like having trouble with contractors or having trouble scaling your business and trying to find work? Yeah, so this is the exact issues that the two main businesses in this industry face. So first off, just to explain it very briefly, there's the shipper. The shipper, they want to get their products or whatever they're shipping across the border to its overall destination. But currently, that's a very difficult process. It's complex. Obviously, they have to find the right contractor, which there's not necessarily a database for, and they have to communicate with them and all of that. But they also need to make sure they find someone who's reliable, both in the credibility that they'll finish the service and also that they have the right resources to do what they need. Also is transparency, because, for example, they're shipping their products, which can be very important for business. They want to know where they are, they want to know the progress, they want to know if they've arrived, and they also want to know if they've arrived intact. So, and lastly is urgency. In a lot of cases, they want something to be shipped in a very urgent time span, but in a lot of cases, it's very hard to find someone to complete this job. On the other hand, there are carriers. Here's these local businesses that take products from this port town to its final destination or across the border. And obviously, they face the usual challenges that any business would. It's very hard to market, expand, and it's a very difficult process. And they're looking for work and people who need their services. So where Border Hall comes into this is that it basically streamlines the operations. Previously, there's no quick way that any company can get this job done with a carrier or a shipper, but it creates this program that offers streamlined operations, allowing people who need these requests and need services done to put in requests, and people who have the ability to fulfill them to be able to view it and to be able to act on it. We also make sure that to ensure credibility, for example, we have all the documentations and anything required, such as the truck ID, business IDs, all in one place for people to view, so anyone who actually is involved in this can ensure the credibility of the other department immediately. And also real-time GPS tracking, adding to that transparency aspect, in the fact that people who have these products shipping, they want to know what's happening with it, they want to know when it's arrived, and with this, they can track it exactly. And also with payments, it can be a little bit annoying going across the border, across international businesses, and their overall program Border Hall streamlines that without having any more complex process. So our current technology, we basically have our web portal here, and it's pretty simple. So basically, anyone who needs to get their products shipped across the border or at one of these port cities, they'll basically put in a request, and anyone who has those services can then accept those requests and get in contact live time. We also have this app where people who are in the process of doing the job can basically get instant notifications, and people who are getting their product shipped can then exactly track where the people are, whether the job's been finished, and the status of it. So under our current revenue model, the way it works is that a company that wants their product shipped is going to pay $130 to get this shipment. And out of that, Border Hall would take around 12%, and the rest would go to the company that actually does the job of sending out the products across the border. So currently, we have this operational web platform. We have around 20 consistent shippers and around 70 carriers with 250 trucks, with monthly revenue at around $26,000. We've actually surveyed a lot of businesses in the area and have a lot of our sales team who've worked in this industry before. And we found that this rate is that, especially considering the amount of convenience we can offer them, to actually be very competitive in the overall market. So our marketing strategy is just focused on these 4 groups of 3PL providers, freight forwarders, custom brokers, and warehouses. And we're focused on mainly Loretto with potential expansions to other places. But this is by far the biggest port for this commercial truck crossing. And through our marketing, we have direct sales, we've networked with a lot of local news companies to basically get in the newspaper and get more exposure, as well as partnerships with logistics networks and logistics conferences as well. So with our vision, we want to become the trusted go-to platform. We want to make it so that people, instead of having to worry every time about shipping their products, it should just be what it is, just an operation within a business, not something that people would have to sweat about or something that people have to consider a ton whenever they meet or discuss future prospects. We want to make this process smooth and easy for both sides. So our goals also include increasing shipment volume from 10 to 150 shipments by the end of the year, build a stronger team, and capture around 10% of the market by the end of 2027. So our overall ask is around $500,000 in seed investment, and what this would go to is overall performance enhancements to make the whole process more convenient for all sides, both the carriers and the carriers. And we also want to scale up our sales and marketing operations and teams and add more to our overall team within that case as well. And lastly, we also want to add more features such as buying in bundles, bulk orders, or for example, potential expansions to other reports like San Diego or Texas. And with that being said, we'll take any feedback or any questions. Thank you.
I thought you did a really good job of describing the problem, right? How complex it is and all of that. Just a comment for you, in a pitch of this length, like I wouldn't devote as much time to the detail of the problem as you did. Right? Because the detail of the problem, we all sort of got pretty quickly that, oh, this is a complex thing, I get it. That sort of next slide where you spent, I don't know, 60 or 90 seconds going through, here are the problems for the trucker, here are the problems for the 3PL, whatever it was, right? Less time there and more on how you're solving it would probably be good. Is this specific to US, Mexico, border crossing, or could your product, if I was importing product from Europe, this works just fine?
So as far as I know, this is specifically for US and Mexico problem, not US to Canada, even so.
How big is this market? So you talked about trying to get from, 10, you talked about getting to a certain percentage and all that sort of thing. How big is this market? If everyone moving product through Laredo was using your solution, what would your revenues be?
So if we only see Laredo is account like 38%, almost 40% US and Mexico, daily commercial truck crossing is about 15,000 to 20,000. You can calculate the number, even though based on our charge, $103 for truck cross, right? Consider as 20,000 daily. You can get the number. How big? Only Laredo market. We haven't account other 60% yet.
One more comment for you. I want to thank you for making your current status very clear on that status slide. Many times somebody will do their pitch and at the end of it, I don't know where they are today. Right? Do they have customers? Do they have revenue? All that. You made that very clear, so well done on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I definitely think quantifying and helping people quantify the market opportunity. I mean, I did some back of the envelope math, about $124 million through Laredo. If that's 40%, 300 million plus or minus through Mexico. I think one of the things that I'm always looking for is this concept of why is now the time to solve this problem? Because my first reaction to this is 20,000 trucks a day moving through one port. There are a lot of systems out there dedicated to logistics, let's just say, right? Nobody's doing this digitally, this hasn't been presented to the market. Is this really specific to this one transaction? I think from a timing and competitive stance, I'm having a hard time believing that there's a gap in this market.
So here's two questions. Why have someone has done that before yet? So when we started May last year, develop. Then by August last year, we start to pilot. Then so far we have 20 shippers using it. when we go to the market, talk to shippers, lots of shippers feel, wow, same way. They should have that 10 years ago, but nobody does. The reason is that when you do the crossing, see, we charge $130. You involve shipper, forwarder, warehouse, customer broker. There's not much profit, people think. That's why they haven't done it. But we got all the process automated. Charge from a customer, page, carriers, everything's automation process.
I think maybe in the upfront during the problem conversation, I agree. I had the same thing, make it a little more succinct. But I think maybe walk me through visually that journey, potentially even systems that are being used today or analog methodologies in which people are accomplishing this. Because that was my first thought, is there's a lot of software in the logistics industry and even for shipping and cross-border transactions, et cetera. And I think it would be nice as someone who doesn't spend my time in this industry to see maybe visually how someone's accomplishing that, and then layer in like a visualization of your workflow and show how you've solved that, right? Because if you're saying we're at price parity to how other people do things, and here's how we've simplified that for a shipper or for a carrier, that would be really helpful for me. Always assume that the person you're pitching knows nothing about your problem. Every now and then you're going to run into someone who is an expert in your field. 99% of the time you're going to run into someone whose next pitch is going to be a health tech conversation or a marketplace or something else. So get very granular. I think I would rearrange the team slide. So telling me your team before I even know what you're doing makes it really hard for me to ascertain whether you're the right people to be solving the problem when I don't know the problem yet. So get me through at least the problem and maybe the early product, and then hit me with a team and show me why the team has particular domain expertise in this exact problem. That'll help me kind of draw the line as to why I think you guys might be the people to solve it. Yep.
That's a great question. So basically, I'm in logistics over 10 years. We do Mexico-US cross-border for the past 3 years. That's why we identified this issue. I also have a PhD in computer science, so I can, apply technology to logistics very easily. So far, we invest $300,000. By the year, we're going to invest, $500,000. We self-support. I can do this, but I really like to get outside funding. We can go quicker.
That's a perfect example. You walk me through all those front things, and then you say, I have a PhD in computational science, I have an expert in logistics, and we're raising this money to get a sales force because we've got our first 10 customers and we want to ramp to X. Makes the ask a lot simpler. Last thing, I would get this deck designed. People are superficial. They'll look at things and say, this looks like it was thrown together and therefore I'm kind of discounting it. So spend a little time on getting it visually compelling, and that'll work. That'll help more than you'd think. Yeah. Yeah.